Professor Vextoon had taught advanced problem-solving for 30 years at the Valerian Institute of Higher Learning. His classroom hosted the brightest young minds from 6 different species, all hand-selected for exceptional cognitive abilities. They were geniuses by galactic standards. Then a human arrived. Her name was Sarah Chen, a 14-year-old from Earth, accepted into the program as part of a cultural exchange initiative. The other students, Valorians, Trell, Zivian, and Sulthur Youth, regarded her with barely concealed condescension. Humans, everyone knew, came from a death world. They were physically robust but intellectually unremarkable. Sarah sat quietly at the back of the classroom, observing everything. The first problem was presented, a complex mathematical theorem that required understanding 7-dimensional geometry. It was designed to challenge even the most advanced students. The Valerian youth solved it in 12 minutes. The Trell student managed it in 14. The others struggled for 30 minutes before arriving at solutions. Professor Vextoon waited expectantly, watching Sarah. She raised her hand after 8 minutes. "Finished already?" Vextoon asked, surprised. "Let's hear your solution." Sarah walked to the board and wrote out her work. Not only had she solved the problem, she'd identified 3 alternative solution paths and explained why one was mathematically more elegant than the others. She'd done this in less time than the Valerian prodigy. The classroom fell silent. "Interesting," Professor Vextoon murmured. "Proceed to the next problem." The pattern continued throughout the week. Every challenge, every theorem, every complex logical puzzle, Sarah solved them faster and more thoroughly than any of her peers. She asked questions that made Vextoon reconsider problems he'd taught for 3 decades. She saw patterns others missed. She approached solutions from angles nobody else considered. By the second week, the other students had stopped raising their hands in her presence. During lunch, the Valerian student named Krental approached Sarah in the cafeteria. "How are you doing this?" he demanded, his bioluminescent skin flushing with frustration. "Humans aren't supposed to be smart. You're from a death world. Your entire evolutionary history is just survival." Sarah looked up from her food calmly. "Exactly. What does that mean?" Krental asked, confused. "On Earth, survival depends on intelligence just as much as strength," Sarah explained. "You face predators constantly. You deal with parasites and diseases and environmental hazards that change every season. Your brain either adapts to solve these problems, or you die. There's no middle ground." She set down her utensil. "Your species evolved on a sterile, climate-controlled world. Your problems are mostly theoretical. You solve them with time and patience because you have the luxury of time. On Earth, you don't have that luxury. You solve problems fast or they kill you." Krental processed this. "So you're saying your intelligence developed as a survival mechanism?" "All intelligence is a survival mechanism," Sarah replied. "But ours evolved under extreme pressure. We can't afford to overthink things. We can't afford to be slow. We have to see the pattern, understand the solution, and execute it immediately. That's just how we're wired." Professor Vextoon overheard the conversation and found it fascinating. That evening, he contacted Sarah's parents on Earth through quantum-encrypted communications. "Your daughter is remarkable," he told them. "She's outperforming every student in my advanced class. I wanted to understand her background." Sarah's mother, Dr. Elena Chen, smiled. Sarah grew up in an environment where problem-solving was essential. She's been dealing with complex real-world challenges since childhood. When your entire planet is trying to kill you, through disease, predators, natural disasters, weather extremes, you develop a certain way of thinking. You learn to solve problems under pressure. You learn to adapt quickly. Vextoon understood then. The human advantage wasn't raw intelligence. It was adaptability. It was the ability to think clearly under stress, to find solutions when perfect information wasn't available, to make decisions quickly and live with the consequences. In the final examination, students were given a problem that had stumped the institute's researchers for 2 years. A paradox in quantum mechanics that seemed mathematically unsolvable. Sarah sat for 20 minutes in complete silence. Then she began writing. Her solution didn't resolve the paradox. Instead, it proved that the paradox resulted from an incorrect foundational assumption in the original problem statement. By identifying and correcting the assumption, the entire paradox dissolved. She'd found the answer by thinking differently. By refusing to accept that the problem was unsolvable. By approaching it from angles that nobody else had considered because they were all locked into conventional thinking. Professor Vextoon presented her solution to the Institute's research division. Within a week, they verified her work. The human girl had solved a 2-year-old scientific mystery. As Sarah left the Institute at the end of the program, Professor Vextoon walked with her to the transport shuttle. "You know what you've taught me," he said. "Intelligence alone doesn't guarantee solutions. Pressure teaches flexibility. Survival teaches creativity. And perhaps a species that evolved on a death world develops a kind of thinking that safer worlds can never produce." Sarah smiled. "On Earth, we have a saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I guess that applies to intelligence too. Our brains got sharp because they had to. Not because we're inherently superior, but because our world demanded it." As her shuttle lifted off toward Earth, Vextoon realized that the real discovery wasn't Sarah's intelligence. It was understanding that humans brought something to the galaxy that no amount of technological advancement could replicate, the adaptive, pressure-tested problem-solving of a species born from a world that demanded excellence or extinction.